Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to dive into the oil tanker market and we're going to look at three stocks, NAT, Frontline, and Euronav, and what they have in store for them for the future and whether or not their price will actually ever recover. Okay, and I see it as a battle of two competing things. Okay, one is, of course, viral cases. So as you can see, this is the all-time chart, and as we can see, we're nearing a peak right here at January 26th was the last reported data point. If you go on Google and you search Roni caseload, and you can see all time, and we're nearing worldwide here. This is worldwide cases. We're nearing an all-time high. Okay, but even if you're looking at worldwide, but if you let's say we just go to the past 30 days. It's relatively flatlined over the past 30 days, right? So the caseload has not increased, but it has not decreased. Okay, so it's a function of how fast can we recover, and when we recover, of course, demand for oil will go up. More people will be going on vacation. They'll be building more infrastructure. More people will be actually traveling to work instead of just sitting at home and doing their work from there. So how fast can we decrease the caseloads because that will lift restrictions by employing, of course, more vaccines. And I don't know if you heard this, but Johnson and Johnson just approved or just came out with preliminary results saying that their vaccine is about 80% effective, and the benefit of that vaccine is you only need to get injected once, and you don't need to have a cold chain like Moderna and Pfizer, where you need to get two doses plus it needs to be like close to absolute zero for these viruses to actually have any effect and not spoil. Okay, and the other part about the tanker market, the oil tanker market, is of course oil price. Of course, it has recovered since the crude oil futures went negative last year, but it's still, it's still depressed. Okay, this is if we're looking at the 5-year chart, this is oil has been trending at anywhere from $50 a barrel to $70 a barrel. Okay, so I would say it's still depressed at these prices, but that's also another sign because oil is very closely related to the oil tanker market, and when oil is doing well, tanker market is doing well because, of course, higher oil price means generally that there's more demand for oil and more demand for oil transportation. Okay, so one is oil price. We need to see that to continue increasing, and of course that the demand will increase once restrictions lift. And the other is, of course, we need the viral caseloads to go down and more vaccines to be distributed, with more players getting into the market of vaccines, including Johnson and Johnson. This will have a drastic impact on how fast we're able to vaccinate people, and hopefully we can see by the summer that we will get out of this alive, and so will oil tankers. Okay, and one more thing I want to say: if we're just looking at, for example, the balance sheet of NAT, this was on their Q3 report. We can see right now that they have 110 million in current assets against we can see total current liabilities of 45 million. Okay, so they're more than able to pay off. If we're just looking at their cash of 62 million, versus even total current liabilities of 45 million, they're more than able to pay off their debt. And of course, it's nice to see that that their debt decreased from a year ago from 59 million to 45 million. Okay, so from a financial perspective, they're not going under anytime soon, which was also one commenter commented down in the description on my last oil tanker update that these guys can survive, and they're used to surviving a couple of years of depressed tanker rates. Okay, so I'm not worried that NAT is going to go under. So let's look again what NAT, Fro, and Euronav did for the week. So NAT was actually up by 3%. There was actually a spike on Friday of about like 11%, which was surprising. I think this was maybe Reddit users pumping this stock up a little bit. But also there was talk of BlackRock. Apparently they bought 8.4 million shares. So another institutional investor piled into NAT. And we're going to go over the PowerPoint presentation on the updates for oil tankers, and there's something going on there, okay, which stay tuned. In the next maybe 2 minutes we'll be talking about that. So Frontline, over the past week, it actually decreased by close to 2%, and Euronav, we can see this stock decreased by 1%. Okay, so not a good week for tankers except for NAT. We can see NAT. I just want to point out that 30% of the stock is held by institutions, which is actually like pretty decent. Okay. Generally, when institutions hold on to a stock, that means that it's not as speculative as when retail investors are holding onto a stock. So 30% institutional ownership is not that bad. Okay, pretty low short interest at 4%, probably because NAT is nearing the bottom, as with other stocks. When we compare to Euronav, though, 40% of the shares are held by institutions, and only 2.26% of shares are actually shorted. Okay. Um, and one thing I want to point out is I will be closely monitoring the fourth quarter results of NAT and even Frontline, and even Euronav, and they should be coming out near the middle to end of February. And for NAT, that is February 26th, is when they will report their Q4 results. Okay, so again, now we're going to go to Clarkson's Plateau Shipbroking PowerPoint, and these are the weekly tanker rates. And some promise here, we can actually see a spike in the tanker rates for this week at 11,600 for Suezmax vessels, which are actually higher than VLCC carriers. I think this might be, even though VLCC carries 2 times the amount of oil, this actually might be because VLCCs, a lot of the excess oil is actually being offloaded, because most VLCCs right now are being used to store excess oil from the pandemic, when demand for oil decreased and there was a large glut of supply of oil. These VLCCs were the ones go to for storing this oil. Okay, so maybe that's why the spot rates are so depressed for VLCC carriers. So, at least that's looking up for the Suezmax vessels. And again, we can see a slight uptick right here based on the results, but still incredibly depressed rates if we compare it even to January a year ago. Okay, so year to date here, 2021 is not looking so good for the rates of VLCC, Suezmax, or Aframax. For clean carriers, kind of the same deal here. And Tanker Market Weekly, of course, just not looking very good. So we can see 6% of tanker fleet is currently used for floating storage. And again, this is the lowest floating storage that VLCC carriers, which is in this like nice little light blue color, have been since the pandemic started, okay, in March of last year. And one thing I want to point out that seems to me pretty interesting, tanker deliveries, we see kind of an uptick here in January of 2021. So far, 25 tankers have been delivered, which is the highest except for last year of January 2020. Okay, so kind of interesting that tanker deliveries are actually upticking despite, of course, the very depressed spot rates. Tankers sold for recycling, we seen an uptick in December of 2020. And now we can see 2021, of course, not many people are selling their tankers for recycling, probably because tankers are going so cheap now that even tankers being sold for recycling are also going for extremely cheap. So no one wants to sell their tankers. They're probably just sitting on them right now. Okay, but new orders of tankers, this to me was very interesting. So as you can see here, January 2021, new orders of tankers are like 7. Okay, the last time we've seen new orders of tankers being 7 for January was in 2015. Okay, in 2015 we saw people ordering like 8 tankers in this little spot right here. So to me, this seems something interesting. Why would people be ordering tankers when the spot rates are so depressed? Okay, and I mean, the conclusion that I come to is that people are actually betting on, of course, an oil delivery and oil recovery. Okay, and oil transportation recovery. And also note that these are new orders of tankers, so it'll take like around 1 year to actually build these tankers and ship them to whatever company is buying these tankers, right? So this is like projecting 1 to 2 years out into the future here. Okay, so which I find kind of interesting, and seems that there is something going on, and now might be an interesting time to look at NAT, Frontline, and Euronav. Although I own NAT shares, I would definitely check out Frontline and Euronav. One thing I do like about NAT is that they mainly operate in the Asian market, which is actually kind of looking good. Okay, so we know that China survived the pandemic quite well relative to the rest of the rich world countries, and China continues to be the main driver for oil demand in 2021. Of course, that means that there's going to be lots of oil transport to China, okay, because China is not a major oil producer. So, and of course, NAT operates mainly in China. That's at least what I'm told and what I've seen in the reports. Okay, again, on the flip side of things, again, articles like these, unemployed supertankers are about to get junked on Asia's beaches, that again, they're actually not making a profit at all, is again kind of concerning. But I think that there is something in the making, especially when looking at something like, new orders of tankers are up, and there've been the most orders of tankers by far since like 2015. Okay, at least for the month of January. All right, so I think that's pretty much all I have for you today. Of course, I'm going to be looking closely at NAT's Q4 earnings. We got the oil tankers. We got some negative news here. We got some positive news on China. And finally, let's close out with some comments on Yahoo Finance. And this is coming to be one of my most favorite channels to get a little bit of laugh out of here. Okay, so either for NAT, I found that a lot of people hate this stock, but some people are, gutting for the stock to go up. Okay, so we'll see. Okay, generally I find that whenever there's negative sentiment on Yahoo Finance, that actually might be a decent time for you to get in and to buy the stock before investors suddenly like the stock. Okay, the Reddit users are here. Maybe they're pumping up the stock. That was maybe that 11% move we saw. The U.S. will now start to lose oil independence. Therefore, shipping oil from other countries will increase. Not sure how long, but look for NAT stock improvement. Blah blah blah. So yeah, I just think it's pretty funny. I definitely recommend you check out the Yahoo Finance section on any stock. You can find very interesting posts there. Anyways, that's it from me. I hope you have a great evening. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Take care, and I'll see you next time.